Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. In this lecture, we will discuss the work of John Dryden, an essay of dramatic poetry or an essay of dramatic poesy. Uh, in this book, John Dryden, in his critical work, he talks to the reader through his four characters. He has actually separated his work in four different ideas about literature, and those different ideas are represented by four different characters. And the four different characters mentioned by John Dryden are Eugenius, Crites, Lycidius, and Neander. These are the names of those four characters given by Dryden. You can say imaginary names to describe different aspects of literature. Now, these four characters, they are they will be describing their own ideas, and when we study their ideas, we can simply conclude that what kind of critical thinking John Dryden has. So his first character, Eugenes, he favors the modern writers. The modern writer means the writers of that time. There was a comparison between the ancient writers and the modern writers. Ancient writer means Aristotle, Plato, uh, Socrates, Longinus. So these were the famous writers, ancient writers, genius writers, you can say. But Eugenius, he says that the modern writers, they are better than the ancients. And why are they better? Because the ancients had no example set before them to follow. They created their own examples. Whatever they thought fit for literature, they wrote it. As far as the modern writers are concerned, their work is more refined as compared to the ancients, because the moderns, they have this privilege and they have this you can say a plus point in their writing, that they could get some examples from the ancients, or could get some ideas from the ancient writers to make their writings more refined. Then Crites, he favors the ancients for creating writing rules. He says, the second character, Crites, he says that the ancients, they are better than the modern, because it is the creativity is always difficult, and these were the ancient writers who created the rules of writing a drama, who created the rules to write poetry, who created the rules to write criticism. So they are actually the creators of this knowledge. That is why they must be more respected and more regarded as compared to the moderns. And all the modern writers, the French writers, the famous French writers of that time, according to Crites, he says that the French playwrights, the French drama writers, all of them, they follow the unities and the rules described by the ancient writers. Here you can recall the unities of Aristotle, described in his book The Poetics: the unity of time, unity of action, unity of place. And then his third character, John Dryden's third character, Lycidius, he says that French drama is better than English drama. Now, why he says French drama is better than English drama? He says that there are only two types of drama, one is comedy and one is tragedy. But in English writing, Shakespeare at that time had introduced a tragicomedy. He says that tragicomedy is the absurd and the lowest type of writing. He does not favor tragicomedy. Tragicomedy means a play where tragedy and comedy is mixed. In Shakespeare plays, Romeo and Juliet is labeled as tragicomedy, and Merchant of Venus, it is also labeled as tragicomedy, because the play starts uh, with tragedy, ends in comedy, and the play starts in comedy and ends in tragedy, so it's a mixture. So he says that tragicomedy is the worst kind of writing. That is why in French literature at that time there was nothing like tragicomedy, it was only tragedy or comedy, so he favors the French writers. Then Neander he favors the modern. This character Neander is somehow balanced character by John Dryden. So Neander says, like, to understand this, what these four characters are, you can say that these four characters, they are discussing their point of views about literature. So Neander, he says he favors the modern. He says that the modern writers are better, but he does not say the ancient writers were not better. He says that modern writers have their place in literature, and the ancient writers have their own place in literature. And he says that English drama is better than better than French drama. And why he says English drama is better than French drama? Because he defends tragicomedy. We discussed that Lycidius, he says that tragicomedy is worst kind of literature, but Neander says that tragicomedy in English is very effective, and it is very useful, and it can give more pleasure to the audience, to the reader, and to the audience, those who are watching the play, or those who read the play. Why he says that it is very effective, and it keeps the reader fresh? He says that a constant state of mind, like a person who is constantly in a state watching a complete sad events in a drama, he his mind will turn into sadness. But at the same time, if someone is watching a comedy for 1 hour, for 2 hours continuously, or reading comedy, his mind will be converted to comedy. And a constant state of mind never gives pleasure. He says that human beings, they need balanced approach. So when they are watching a drama, if sometimes it's comedy and sometimes it's tragedy, so it does not keep the audience or the reader into one state of mind. The state of mind keeps on changing, which creates a balance in the mind instead of creating a complete tragic events or complete comic events. So he defends tragicomedy. Then he says that French drama is not good than English drama. Why? Because in French drama there is only one plot. One plot means um, one main story, and there are no subplots in the within one drama. In English dramas, we can see we can read that there are many dramas written by Shakespeare which have subplots too. So he favors subplots. That's why he says English drama is better than French drama. Then he says that, talking about Shakespeare, he draws a comparison. Neander draws a comparison between Shakespeare and Ben Jonson. Shakespeare was a greatest writer. He says that he was the largest and comprehensive soul. Largest comprehensive soul. It means that he was uh, widely understood. He was widely read by the people, and uh, he wrote some great tragedies, great comedies, and great tragicomedies. And on the other side, as far as Ben Jonson is concerned, he was a very knowledgeable person, and he was the most qualified and learned writer of all the times when he was writing. So there is a comparison between Shakespeare and Ben Jonson. But he says that Shakespeare was better than Ben Jonson. Why? Because what Shakespeare wrote, he created new knowledge into his plays. Instead of giving the existing knowledge, Shakespeare was a creative writer. So he gives plus point to Shakespeare over Ben Jonson. Although Ben Jonson was a great learned scholar and a great writer. Now, again, his second character, Crites, the character of John Dryden. He says that he talks about rhyme. Rhyme means the rhyme words, which you must have heard, like in poetry, that the last words should be, sometimes, not should be, not must be, but sometimes the last words of in poetry, they are similar. uh, well, what we can say, what example I can quote here, like uh, all and tall, they are the rhyme words. So he says that the rhyme words, they are uh, where is it, that the rhyme words in the plays, the use of rhyme in the plays is never favorable. Why? Because in the plays the characters, they speak dialogues, and it was a tradition, you can say, and a way and a style of writing that all the writers, they used to write in the in the form and in the shape of poetry. Like a character is speaking his dialogue, but his dialogue was just like he is reading some poetic lines, the dialogues in the poetic form, in the rhyme form. So he says that in normal life, a human being never talks in this poetic form, in this rhyme form. So it looks unnatural when the rhyme scheme is used in the plays. Instead, prose should be used. Prose means something which is written in the form of sentences and paragraphs. There is a major division of literature: prose and poetry. Poetry means the rhyme scheme, and sometimes rhyme and sometimes not rhyme scheme. And prose means the simple essays which we read, the simple books that we read. So he says that rhyme scheme in the plays, it does not add any beauty to the writing. So it should be in the prose form. And then he supports his idea by describing the views of Aristotle, because Aristotle said, he says that Aristotle, who gave the rules of writing drama, he says that tragedy written near to prose. Near to prose means that if it is not completely in simple sentence dialogues, then it must not completely be a poetic dialogues, or dialogues written in the form of poetry. So it must be the writer, every writer must try to write his dialogues in prose form. So, and he favors blank verse in drama in place of, instead of rhyme, where in blank verse the rhyme word are not necessary to write. There must no, it is not necessary that there should be rhyme word at the end. So it is, the blank verse is somehow close to prose, but rhyme is very much similar to poetry. And when the characters in the play, they are they are speaking their dialogues in the form of poetry, it looks unnatural, it appears an unnatural. Because in common day life, in natural life, the humans, they speak in the form of prose, in the form of sentences and paragraphs. And he also says that through rhyme, all the greatest thoughts cannot be expressed. He says that there, through poetry, great philosophies can be addressed, but while writing a play, it is never favorable that a writer is using rhyme scheme or poetry, because according to him, rhyme scheme or a poetry used by the playwright in his play can never express the greatest of his thoughts to the audience. And then Neander responds to rhyme verse to Socrates. The Neander says that it is inappropriate for drama. Rhyme scheme, it is not good for drama. It should be written in blank verse. And it, the second most thing that he says, Neander, he says that sometimes rhyme scheme appeals the audience, appeals the reader, and mostly it does not appeal the audience when they are watching or when they are reading drama, when the audience watching or reading drama. But it is all in the hands of the writer who is writing the play. If he is using rhyme scheme in appropriate way, it will be liked by the audience. And if he is using rhyme uh, in inappropriate way, definitely it will not be appreciated by the audience. So it can be a mixture of rhyme and blank verse, it can simply be blank verse, it can simply be prose, but the purpose is that it should attract the reader or the audience.